Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Chocolate Travels. I'm Joseph with Bean to Bar World, and I'm here with Wezi from Kwanza Cocoa. Hello, Wezi. Nice to meet you.
Hi, everybody. My name's Wezi of Kwanza Cocoa. I'm a cocoa farmer, chocolate maker, and chocolatier in training, aka the triple threat of Africa.
Very nice. Awesome. So why don't you tell us about your company, specifically when and why Kwanza Cocoa in Malawi came into existence, and who helped put it all together?
So I was actually born in Ethiopia and went to school in the UK. And I came back from the UK to Malawi in 2011. And I'm actually a trained publicist and a media professional and an event manager. So I came back and my parents were like, you need to farm something. So they took me to one of the farms and I worked out they had planted like 5-6 cocoa trees. And I was like, ooh, this looks interesting. Cocoa beans means lots of money. So from 2011, going forward into 2013, we started planting a lot more cocoa. And then we did a visit to the northern region of Malawi, close to the border with Tanzania, which is a huge cocoa growing area, and worked out a lot more farmers were growing cocoa there, but on like a small scale. So you'd have one family with like 5 trees, another family with like 5 trees, and all they were doing was taking the cocoa beans into Tanzania and it being sold off as Tanzanian cocoa.
Oh, interesting.
So in 2017, I was like, guys, we need to expand the farm. So my parents and me drove all the way into Tanzania in search for seedlings. So the first trip that we took into Tanzania and search for seedlings, we met Mzee, I can't remember his name. So he gave us seedlings in like plastic bags. We're like, cool. So we had, I think I carried 30 in one hand, 30 in the other hand. My dad carried 30 and 30. My mom carried 10. So there were 100 of them. We're like, cool, let's walk across the border with our plastic bags. We thought we were really, really clever. So we got here because we'd put the seedlings in plastic bags. They ended up wilting on the journey back home. So only like 10 or 20 survived out of those. So in January of 2018, we're like, no, let's go for the full haul. And we drove to Tanzania, drove across the border this time, and picked up 1,000 seedlings.
Okay.
And we came back and planted those 1,000 seedlings. And that's pretty much the growth process of how Kwanza Cocoa started.
Okay.
So between 2017 and 2018, we're replanting seedlings, adding more seedlings, and looking after the trees. So COVID hit 2020, and obviously events went out the window, and I became a full-time farmer. So started growing tomatoes in the greenhouse with my mom. So
your parents were smart to foresee that you need to get into farming.
I know, right? So now looking back on it, I'm like, how did you guys know? How did you guys know that I find so much enjoyment from cocoa on its own? So COVID happened, events got shut down. All my clients weren't flying into Malawi. So pretty much my life came to a halt. So I spent a lot more time on the farm and a lot more time learning about the cocoa plant itself. I had no idea that so many things could be made out of just cocoa, not just chocolate. So started off that whole process of learning and seeing what could be done. And then I attended the Echo Chocolate Show, which was like a virtual online African cocoa weird summit thing.
Okay.
And then I saw Loom Chocolate and I saw Happy Coffee and I saw, I think Nick from 11 Cacao was also present.
Okay.
And I started reaching out to people online on Instagram. I'd be like, hi, I'm in Malawi, I grow cocoa, but I want to make chocolate. And this was 2021.
Wow.
And then somebody called me and goes, Wezi, we know you're growing cocoa. But have you ever thought about actually starting to make chocolate? I'm like, yeah, but the equipment and this, I just made up a whole batch of excuses, which I kind of regret because I would have started earlier.
Mm,
They're like, why don't you apply for the Tony Elembulu Foundation business training? So it's like a free training that's done across Africa online, and you get seed capital, $5,000 seed capital from doing the training. So
okay.
you do the virtual training, and then you pitch, and then after you pitch, you go through a whole series of other pitches, and eventually you get your seed capital.
Mm,
So in the process of doing that, I was forced to, unlike any of my other businesses, write a business plan and put strategy in place and say, where do I want to be in the next 5 to 10 years? So for the first time, I had to actually sit down, focus, and say, this is what my financials are. This is what I want to do in the next 5 to 10 years. And
mm.
really daunting at the time because I'm like, I don't have no money. COVID, so broke.
Right.
So it was one of those moments where you're like, what do I do? So I'm doing this online training. I make jewelry as well.
Mm,
Um, I'm also doing some PR stuff for a resort on the side as well. And they're not getting any guests, so they can't pay me. So I'm just like, what to do?
right.
So um this is the point where we had started growing green tomatoes in the greenhouse. So me and my mum went to the shops and we're like, oh, we're looking for string to tie up the tomatoes. So she calls me into the shop. She was like, Wezi, come and look at this. I'm like, what is it? So she finds like a Indian stone grinder.
Mm.
And I'm like, doesn't that look like one of those things that we see online that makes chocolate? She's like, yeah. Because she's on Instagram as well. She's like, yeah, it's those things. We're like, oh, how much is it? And the guy in the shop is like $80. It was 80,000 kwacha at the time. So we go home and we're like, Dad, can we borrow 80? And got the machine. And it was a tiny, like 1 kilo
Oh, okay.
wet grinder.
Wow.
So we're like, okay, let's try this chocolate making thing. Let's see if it's gonna work. So I sent a message to Uzo from Loom Chocolate, and I'm like, listen, I found this wet grinder in town, and I'm gonna try and make my first chocolate bar. She's like, she just starts laughing. And I'm like, what's funny? So I roast my beans. I crack my beans. I winnow my beans like a whole like 1 kilo of it. She's like, you need to do your chocolate in percentages. So do 70% beans and 30% sugar. So I weigh my 700 grams of beans. I crack them. I'm like really motivated at this point.
Hmm.
I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna make chocolate. And I had actually fermented the beans myself,
Oh,
which
okay.
was quite funny because it came from like our first harvest from the farm. And this is when I was actually just learning about fermentation.
Right. So where did you
Uh,
learn that from, the fermentation? Locals or?
no, I had to do like, I had to ask a few people in Uganda. So I was on Twitter, messaged Solomon in Uganda of Winky Farms. And I was like, how do you ferment? Because I fermented, but I'm not sure I'm doing the right thing. So what I initially did is I took the pods, broke the pods, and put them in like a airtight container
Mm,
and just left them on the kitchen counter, thinking,
mm.
okay, they're gonna ferment 3 days. Yeah, no, no. So started my whole chocolate making process in this 1 kilo wet grinder, and everything
So
was just spitting.
you mentioned that there are farmers that you know of in Malawi that grow cacao. So they don't ferment
Yeah.
it. They they send the
Well,
wet beans to
at this
Tanzania.
point, I didn't think they did. I didn't think they knew what they were doing.
Oh,
At
okay,
this
okay.
point, we hadn't even like, visited them or knew who they were
Mm,
because
mm.
everybody was very, very cagey about what goes on with cocoa in Malawi. Because you'd call
Okay.
someone and they were like, we're looking for cocoa beans. They'll be like, no, we don't have any.
Oh, okay.
Um, so it's after this whole process
Mm,
that I then established what actually happens to the cocoa beans.
mm,
Uh, so the cocoa spitting out of the machine. I'm 12 hours in and I'm like, is it done yet? She's like, no. Uzo's like, no, relax, Wezi. You got to be there for like 36 hours. I'm like, what do you mean? Do I have to sit here and watch the thing for 36 hours? So finally get all in, sleep with one eye open because I've never kept a machine running for that long.
Right. It
Like,
seems kind of weird, but
yeah, it seemed really just one of those things that's so completely odd, so bizarre. And because it's Africa, we have power cuts all the time.
um,
So I was like, what happens if the power goes off? What
mm,
happens if it solidifies? All of these things were running through my head at the time when I started making chocolate and tasted the first batch. It was disgusting.
probably
It
bad
was bitter.
fermentation.
And that's when I learned that, if you've got a bad ferment, your chocolate is going to taste horrible.
Mm,
Um, I think that was my really great introduction into the world of chocolate,
mm,
is learning that it all starts from the farm.
right.
So you can't just get beans and just be like the beans are okay, because sometimes we get beans from other farmers and they're completely off.
Mm,
We had a batch that was moldy in,
mm,
was that April or May? Because it was rainy season and they didn't dry the beans properly.
mm,
So all of that we had to just use as cocoa butter.
right.
Uh, so it's interesting things like that. So after the first batch of chocolate was done, I went online, and on Instagram, Jillian from Trinidad got in touch with me.
Mm,
And she's like, oh, we see you're trying to make chocolate. We've got a little cooperative in Trinidad, and this is what we do. And I'm like, hold on a minute. There's a whole batch of us Africans who are trying to make chocolate too. So what she did is she took out her Saturdays for a whole month, and we did like online chocolate making training
mm.
school
Wow.
type thing. And that is literally how the Cross Atlantic Chocolate Collective was born.
Oh, okay, okay. Interesting.
So it was just a few Instagram messages,
Yeah, yeah.
um, and, and then me messaging the guys in Uganda and Silverstein in Cameroon and saying, guys, listen, somebody's willing to teach us what to do.
Yeah, yeah. That's
So every
amazing. Wow.
Saturday for about 3 months, we
Mm-hmm.
were doing a chocolate making school, which was quite
Mm,
fun.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Uh, and at the same time, I was also little by little building the business,
And she
and
was
seeing what.
helping you too about the fermentation. Was that part of the schooling?
I think Solomon from Uganda did like a session on fermentation.
Okay.
Um, so I learned to ferment from him.
Mm.
He suggested, because we had at the time we had these COVID buckets, the buckets with the taps for washing hands. So
Oh,
because
okay.
we're doing small batches, he's like, just put the beans in a sack with something propped up so that the liquid drops,
Mm.
and just do it that way. That's the easiest way, instead of like fermentation boxes
Mm-hmm,
and things
mm-hmm.
like that. And ever
Nice.
since then, that's literally how we ferment, because I actually want to store the juice for another project, which I can't talk about, but it's very
Okay.
exciting.
Nice.
So I'm now literally storing whatever we ferment to turn into something else. It's not going to be wine, if anybody's wondering, but it'll be something else.
Okay. Now we hear a lot about Tanzania cacao, Madagascar cacao, not Malawi cacao. So do you know anything about the history of cacao in Malawi? Is it mostly sort of kind of coming in from Tanzania? Or how long have people been growing cacao there, as far as you know?
From what I know and from what I've done talking to the farmers in Karonga, is they planted the same time that they planted in Tanzania,
Oh, okay.
um, which was around what, 2010, late 2008, 2010, around that time.
Mm.
Um, they said a Taiwanese brought the trees.
Oh, okay. Wow. So same
So I
genetic
don't know.
material as Tanzania.
Yeah. So
Wow.
I don't know who the Taiwanese person is, because whenever I go to the village to go and see the farmers, they call me Taiwan, because that's the person that brought the cocoa to them. So, yeah. So I actually don't know who exactly this guy is, but
Hmm, interesting.
yeah. He's the one that brought it in. But
Okay.
apparently, speaking to somebody who worked in one of the an agricultural historian, he said that the colonials did bring in cocoa into Malawi at one point,
Mm.
and planted it around the Balaka area. I don't think those trees are there anymore.
Oh,
I
okay.
haven't heard about it since.
Hmm.
So it's interesting to see whether it's still there, and I haven't had enough time to explore
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
check if they still got cocoa trees.
So it seems like what you're excited about there now, what I saw from your website, is you're trying to foster the idea of growing cacao production, growing cacao. Why do you think that's so important there in Malawi?
I think as global warming and how the climate is changing, Malawi is becoming more susceptible to growing cocoa. So along the lakeshore region is quite warm and tropical because it's
Mm,
hot and it rains at the same time. And it's one of the key areas that I think could be growing cocoa on a larger scale. But when you explain to a farmer that they're going to have to wait 4 years, 4 to 5 years for them to start having fruits from their cocoa, they look at you like you're crazy.
mm.
Because Malawi is one of those countries where we like things, we say pompo pompo, we like things now. That's why we grow tobacco, maize, soya, because you farm one, like within 3 to 6 months, you've got your produce back.
Mm,
So when you
mm.
say to somebody in a village, cocoa, they'll just look at you like you're crazy.
So why do
Which
they
is
have why do they have those? You said they have, 4 or 5 cacao trees here and there. Is that just more
um,
because they want to diversify their income, or what is
I
the
think
purpose
they
there?
just wanted to try it out originally. So
Mm,
from what we've seen of how people have planted in the north close to the border, and we're not that close to the border. We're in the north, but not that north. Um, so what we've done with our outgrowers program is we've noticed that if people are subconsciously looking after their cocoa, it will grow. So we've applied the homestead planting method. So they plant it around like their village kitchen,
mm,
bathing area. So they're subconsciously watering their plants every day.
mm,
Um, and I think that's the easiest method so that they're not thinking, oh my gosh, when is my cocoa going to start bearing fruit?
mm. I
They're
see.
just subconsciously, and within 4 years' time, they have another source of income.
Okay. So are there some farmers now who are interested in this, propagating
Yes,
cocoa?
we have
Yeah.
38 so far who are women and youth in the Nkata Bay area.
Okay.
And then I launched an outgrowers call for outgrowers last month, and we've had about 23 people register for that, and they all want to do 100 trees, 200, 500. So that's positive. That's the
Right.
positive way forward. Yeah.
Right. So you guys are just starting. Obviously, nobody has any fruit yet. Just starting it out. Okay. Exciting.
Yeah.
Your website states creating a sustainable supply chain. So what does that mean? If you can expand on that.
For us, creating a sustainable supply chain is really important because we don't want to be buying cocoa just anyhow. And also, Malawi is a big sugar grower, so we already have the sugar there. Um, so for us to be sustainable, we need to have more cocoa locally, not picking up from Tanzania when we're short. I've had to do that twice this year because
Oh,
we've been
okay.
short, so we've had to go into Tanzania and pick up some like 10 I think we got 40 kilos this year.
Sorry, can I just pause you
Um,
there? So is it easy, the trade between Tanzania and Malawi? You guys, it sounds like you can just walk over and get what you need.
just walk across.
Okay,
Just
that's
walk
good.
across,
Yeah.
act
Okay.
like a normal citizen with your little
Da, da, da.
handbag
Da,
or your rucksack. Oh, but we do it anyway.
da.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
I mean, that's how the cocoa farmers in Garonga is what they do is they actually just bike their cocoa beans across the border.
Mm,
If it's a lot, they take like a boat and boat it across onto the other side.
okay,
Um,
okay.
it's I think because borders were just made without thinking about the people, because the people on the Tanzanian side are Nyakyusa people, and the people on the Malawian side are Nyakyusa people, and the border is just there for
Right, right.
border reasons.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
nice to know that it doesn't sound like it's too restrictive. Some countries are a lot more strict about what you can carry across. So you have that freedom
I
for now.
mean, it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be, but you know how it is.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's good. What can you tell us about the cacao that grows in Malawi? Can you describe the flavor? Now that you've maybe improved your fermentation, what does it taste like, the chocolate?
So what I've found from the beans that we grow on our farm, the beans that grow everywhere, is they pick up whatever is growing close by. So we plant pigeon peas on the farm. So you'll have cocoa beans that taste like pigeon peas. Well, they taste very beany.
Okay.
Then you'll have the cocoa when the mango flowers are flowering. The cocoa from that season tastes very mangoey.
Okay.
And then you have people who have planted pineapples in between their trees. Their beans taste very pineapple-y.
Mm.
And then you've got the people who plant bananas and their beans taste very banana-y.
Okay.
And it's actually quite funny because you can actually tell. And more recently, I've started fermenting with fruits. So I did a
So
passion
adding the
fruit
fruits
ferment
in the fermentation heap. Oh, okay.
in the fermentation. So I did a passion fruit ferment, and then the chocolate from that was very fruity, and you could taste the tang from the passion fruit. And then I did a banana ferment, which didn't really do much. I haven't really sat by that bar is coming out probably over the weekend, but it tastes like cocoa that's been grown with bananas.
Okay. Very mild.
Yeah, very mild.
Okay.
It'd be interesting to see what happens if we plant with coffee.
You
It'll
guys
be
can grow
interesting to
coffee there
see.
well?
Yeah, we do grow a lot of coffee.
Okay.
I know someone who took seedlings a couple of weeks ago is planting his in between his coffee.
Oh, okay.
So I'll hear from him. Well, when he starts harvesting in like 4 years' time, will be like the coffee fermented, the coffee grown cocoa.
Okay.
So it's different flavors. I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but I can now tell the difference in the different flavors of cocoa that we get.
Why did you decide to introduce added value products? So how has this worked for you since you started? So I know you were sort of doing the cacao mostly, and now it's more added value products. And what sort of products do you create?
Eventually it was more of a thing where chocolate is very expensive in Malawi. A Lindt bar is $12, which is really, really expensive.
Wow.
So for me, it was more of a thing of creating nice, quality, affordable chocolate for people who are chocolate eaters and people who are chocolate fanatics. The products that we make now is we've got I've actually got some next to me.
Okay.
We've
Sure.
got a range of this many bars.
Wow.
So I actually go through.
Yeah.
So that's the passion fruit ferment.
Okay.
So the ones that are from our farm have got like a funny color in the packaging. That's a banana ferment. That's your standard 70%.
Okay.
Then you've got chili and sea salt. Don't know if you can see. So chili in Malawi is called gambuzi. So it's like a little Scotch bonnet.
Okay.
Then you've got like an espresso bar, which I don't know if you can see.
You blend the beans.
This
You
is
blend the beans in the chocolate, or you sprinkle it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Blend the beans and the chocolate. So all the espresso bars are from coffees from different countries I've visited.
Oh, okay.
So I've got a Ghanaian coffee bar. I've got a Nigerian coffee bar. I'm doing an Ethiopian one, and I think Uganda soon, or Rwanda, or wherever I visit next.
Okay.
I like to travel, so I don't know where I'm going next. Most interesting flavor is 5 spice. Chinese spice,
Oh, interesting.
and sesame, which is new.
How did you come up
Then
with
I've
that
got
one?
masala. Oh, I was making sweet and sour chicken.
Okay. And you
I was
thought,
making
oh,
sweet and sour chicken one weekend, and I was like, this tastes quite nice. What if I put it into chocolate?
I like it. Nice.
Yeah. Then you've got your masala chai tea.
Okay.
Um, then the most interesting and very, very popular bar, which is the hemp seed bar.
Okay.
And then your standard milk chocolate. So initially, I started off just doing chocolates, and then I've been watching a lot of Instagram reels, and then got sucked into the whole world of doing bonbons
Mm.
and being adventurous with bonbons.
Hmm.
So when I first started doing bonbons,
They're a lot of
that was
work.
hard.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was hard.
Yeah.
It was hard. So watching a lot of reels, Chef Young's videos online, and then I'd actually send him messages to say I can't find UHT cream. What can I use instead? And he responds. So a lot of people are really helpful when you're like, I can't find this. What
Mm.
can I do
Mm.
instead? Because we're here and we don't have the ingredients that we wish we had.
Right.
More recently, there was no gelatin or pectin around. So I actually had a group from Norway visit, and I was
Mm.
going through this whole process of I can't find pectin or gelatin or anything to put in the bonbons. They're like, have you not tried to powder chia seeds?
Oh, okay.
Because chia is also a natural gelatin
Yeah.
as well. So it's things like that. So I come across people and people are like, have you tried this?
Mm.
Instead of this, and it actually works. Don't know about the shelf life. I need one of those like ticky machine those things.
Yeah.
So I keep coming across people who teach me different things, and then I pick up different things. More recently, one of our two top selling products is the peanut spread, which is similar to Nutella but with
Oh, okay.
groundnuts because we've got a
Mm-hmm.
lot of groundnuts.
Mm-hmm.
So I do a vegan one for that and a milk chocolate spread. And last week, I actually made a chocolate body polish,
Okay.
which I haven't tried out yet because we're doing it this summer. So I want to get the quotation marks slay queens using product.
Okay. So it's a
So
cocoa
it
butter
is.
or chocolate?
So it's so what the fantastic thing about doing chocolate at origin is, or making any cocoa products at origin, is we get to go through the process and we have all of these leftover bits and pieces from each product that we make. So from the cocoa butter making process, the residue that's left from the pressing of the butter is what we've now turned into like a body scrub polish
Oh, okay.
type thing.
Oh, I see. I see.
So
Right.
yeah, so I've mixed that in with a bit of moringa oil and coconut oil. So it smells like chocolate,
Mm.
but it's like a body scrub.
Okay. And how do locals feel about their locally made chocolate products? Are people pretty excited about the products that you make? And did people in Malawi there, did they consume a lot of other chocolate beforehand, before you started making all this chocolate?
At first, people were like, "No, she can't be making chocolate. It doesn't taste like chocolate. There's no way it's chocolate." Um, and now we are actually literally the go-to brand for gifting for like weddings, birthdays, anniversaries, because
Very
people
nice.
like that personal touch that we add to the chocolates.
Mm.
Um, as for competition, obviously there's Cadbury's and Lindt. And
Hmm.
now, more recently, we've got a lot of Turkish brands coming into the country
Okay.
because of forex issues, and obviously the Turkish chocolate is much cheaper
Mm.
than Lindt or Cadbury. Um, so obviously the competition is there, but we know who our customers are. So for me, I'm not really bothered. A lot of my focus now is into hospitality.
Mm.
So I really like going forward, I want to work with a lot more chefs and hotel restaurants, and get them like nice pillow suites and things to make the whole experience of visiting Malawi different.
Right. Right. No, that would be wonderful if local chefs and hotels, whatnot, could say to their guests, this chocolate cake, whatever it is made with Malawi cacao, made here. That would be
Yeah.
wonderful. Are you going to start hosting tastings and tours and anything like that?
So we are currently almost done constructing our full facility. So I've been working out of the kitchen for the last 2 years, since
Mm,
2021. We started building our little mini factory facility last year. And actually, the electricals are going in next week, which is very exciting. Um, so once that's open, we'll be offering tastings and tours of the factory space. And then from next year, we'll be offering farm tours and tastings on the farm as well.
very nice.
We do have a lot of people coming through Malawi who are like, oh, there's nothing to do apart from visiting the lake. So this will be like a
Mm,
very exciting food visit. And because on the farm we've also got oranges, we've got bananas, we've got
mm.
plantains, we've got our security, which we call the guinea fowl. The guinea fowls are key security because they eat termites.
I heard about
So I
that,
love my
yeah.
guinea.
But they're
So
very loud, I
my
think,
guinea
right?
fowls they're very, very loud. My guinea fowls actually went missing last year. So I had like
Oh,
10, and the caretaker on the farm said a snake ate them.
it's a lot of birds for one snake.
Yeah, it was a human snake. So we now got about 20, 30 guinea fowls. So the plan would be to do a full food experience. So when you come to the farm, you do the farm tour, and then you get a whole food, organic food experience.
That would be really amazing. A lot of people love chocolate. They love the idea of seeing how it's all made, and you have all that there from beginning to end. So that would be really, really great. And if there's people looking for things to do, I could see that really hitting off well over there. Yeah. Good luck with that.
Yeah. And because I'm a lover of luxury, obviously it will be a whole luxury experience.
Some pampering.
Yeah. For pampering, you get your cocoa
Scrub.
body polish
Yeah.
scrub and nice. Maybe I was actually looking at doing probably like an oil-based something and candles in the near future, cocoa
Yeah.
candles.
Yeah. Very nice.
Yeah.
So what would you say at this point? You mentioned earlier about you had to create like 5-year, 10-year plans or something like that. So did you want to share with us what some of your goals are and what do you hope to achieve with Kwanza Cocoa?
So for the first goal for my first 5 years was building and finishing the facility. And that is 70% complete right now. And we're only 2 years, 2.5 years in. Then the other goal in 10 years' time would be to build a more commercial factory. Although, as I learn more about cocoa and I learn more to respect the food, I don't think I'm going to be going commercial.
Mm, why is that?
Only because when you commercialize, you lose that personal touch that your product and your produce has. It would like for a lot of investors, they want to come in, they're like, no, you need to get big machines from China, you need to do this, you need to do that. And for me, your product loses its personal touch. And the thing that we love the most at Kwanza Cocoa is we're a family-run business, and everybody puts their heart and soul into the business. And it's nice going to a place where you feel like you're at home.
Mm,
So I don't want to change that and just become robotic
right.
machine
Yeah.
line product lines and things like that. No, I don't want to change that. And from my experience of watching other businesses like that and grow it like that in Malawi. So there's a lot of like yogurt, chili
Mm,
businesses that have gone commercial, but then the quality of their product has dropped.
yeah. There's only so big you can grow before the product changes, the quality of the product changes. And like you said, there's sort of like a soul about a small company, a small where you have your hands in everything. once you lose that, when it's all machines, I don't know, it just kind of, for me, it doesn't really excite me anymore. Sort of takes away the purpose. Yeah.
And you don't get
Interesting.
to experiment with all these rules and regulations about having big machines. Whereas if you stay small, you're able to say, okay, today I'm going to do a batch with like rosemary and lemon in it because I
Right.
want to.
Yeah, exactly.
And things like that. And as a lover of luxury, I would, instead of going commercial, my dream would be to open a boutique cocoa theme based something luxury lodge type thing. Yeah.
Beautiful. Where do you currently sell your products? How can people get in contact with you? Do you sell your cacao as well?
We don't sell cocoa beans only because we use all of them. Um, but we do have 3 outlets in Lilongwe, which is Kaza Kitchen, Farmers Harvest, and Coco's, and 1 outlet in Blantyre, which is Healthify. And from you can send us a message of what on WhatsApp, and we take local orders. For international orders, if we're sending across the continent, we send via DHL. For Europe, please stand by until the factory's done. And for the States, if you're ordering couverture without any milk in it, we can send it to you. And for Asia, I don't know because I haven't sent anything to Asia yet.
Okay,
Yeah.
very nice. Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Wezi. It was really nice to learn about how you started. It sounds like you're very energetic, ambitious. You have a lot of ideas turning in your head there. So it's exciting to see what's going to happen.
No, it's going to be a very, very, very interesting next few years.
Yeah.
It's an exciting journey, and
What do your
I'm
parents say
looking
about all
for.
this?
They call me Wezi Wonka.
That's a funny one. That's pretty
I'm like,
awesome.
why?
Yeah.
Why? Of all the things that you could think of, they call me Wezi Wonka. So, and then my nieces and nephews call me Auntie Chocolate. Somebody else said to me, why don't I start a whole Auntie Chocolate brand?
Yeah, that's
And
kind of
I'm like,
cute.
no. That would mean I'd have kids around. So, and kids and chocolate is just disaster. So nowadays, what I do is I overfeed my nieces and nephews with chocolate like 30 minutes before their parents get home.
Ah,
And then I'm like, bye.
that's a little bit mean. Nice.
Yeah.
Excellent.
But
Very-
no, the future is bright, and I'm actually looking forward to seeing more chocolate makers on the continent and visiting more chocolate makers on the continent as well. And if you need to ask any questions, I'm always happy to help and share my experiences.
Wonderful. Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Nice to meet you, and all the best. Take care.
Thank you.
Download the free Bean to Bar app to connect with incredible chocolate makers from around the world. Also, be sure to visit beantobarworld.com, your portal for all things fine chocolate, virtual tastings, free learning resources, research, and much more. Subscribe to the newsletter to stay in touch, and donate to the free app and free resources here. Contact me for any chocolate-related questions you may have.